is it gonna lock? Is the screen gonna lock?
Get closer
sure?
to our event. We're hoping we can slowly start making our way towards the seats. Thank you.
Hear the audio.
I'll check on the other phone. Hold on. Check off.
It's not. Yep.
Yes, sir.
There you go.
So what they all, I don't know when they'll get to start.
Like I said, there's something that goes wrong, so.
Well, about this, and then you have to actually start taking pictures. And the question I had for you was, is this gonna lock on me? Because I don't know how.
That's what I.
Okay.
I'll give you my password.
So this is broken? Is that what you're saying?
No.
How do you lock this thing so I can't wiggle it?
And then you're joining on.
Okay. Are you live? Can someone in the? Is your?
Check 1, 2, 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2, 1, 2. Mic check. Mic check. Check 1, 2, 1, 2. Mic check. Mic check. Just 1, 2.
Can you not hear in your headphones?
1, 2, 3, 4. Mic check. 1, 2, 3, 4. Mic check. Paul, isn't the reporter back east that does mic check, but she does like the songs?
No.
It's pretty funny.
Okay. Does she sing them or word it?
She worked it.
Oh, okay.
She's all like, who does she qualify against?
It was paused.
Okay, great. Now you're gonna take pictures, and I'll just babysit this thing and hope it doesn't fall asleep.
Oh, yeah, let me give you my.
It's pretty dark. But get your thing. What's your thing?
What? Shots of what?
Don't mess anything up.
Okay.
Just leave it alone.
Okay, I'll leave it alone.
All right, you gotta go take pictures.
Yes, but
I'm gonna go shoot
But what?
I'm
Do I need what?
my code.
I just don't like this shot. There's nothing
I
we can do
know.
about it.
That's something that I don't know why it doesn't. Because yesterday I tried it, and I tried it earlier, and this time it said the orientation is locked.
Okay.
And when I set it up, it wasn't like that. Okay, so we're gonna do it live like this, but then I'm gonna edit it. Breathe, I'm sorry.
Great. It's fine. It's working. That's all that counts. Go take pictures, because that's your job now. Don't feel bad.
I'm not good with awareness like that.
It's fine. It's fine. It's good.
Okay. So, you want to write down?
Is this yours?
No.
What?
Oh, the code. What code? In case it's locked.
Oh, yes, please.
It's 270805.
27, 8,
No, 08.
2708, 7,
05.
was 270805? Okay.
Now you know my anniversary.
I can't hear. Backwards. I'll never remember it. I don't
Oh,
remember.
because that's a Mexican one.
I never remember numbers.
I've moved to
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Dyslexia?
Why are we charging? Nothing. I'm asking.
Oh. No. Okay, I'm gonna sit down.
Good morning, everyone. Can we please have you take your seats? Our event is about to begin. Thank you.
Here. You're in the, yeah, just be careful. Hey, can you do me a favor? Can you look on our YouTube channel and make sure you can see and hear the stream that's on right now? You should see calidad. You should hear lots of wind. We know it's, she can't figure out how to fix it. So at this point, we're going with what we got. If I said, at this point, we're going with what we got because she cannot figure out how to fix it. I don't know. It doesn't work that way. So I just want to make sure you can hear something and see it. Okay, great. Okay, thanks. Bye. Steven wanted to know why it's the wrong. I told him at this point where it is what it is. But he can hear it and he can see it, and so he said, okay, it's what it is. Don't mess it up.
He says that because he's he usually goes, oh, it's so nice and calm. As if it's
Just when.
We're always on both sides.
You're with the
Like 2 days ago, 3 days ago.
so I mean it's
You live in. Oh, you live Oh, is that like? Yeah.
He said he could hear it. You are now.
You are now.
You're not.
I'm not.
Just, yeah. Is that it?
Don't move too much and move like sorry, he's here and shooting. No, you're fine. You're fine. Just yeah. The platforms are separate. Yes.
Good, good.
guys, don't stand up. The live stream's right above you.
Good morning, everybody. Oh, come on now. This is Otay Mesa East. Good morning, everybody. I know how excited all of you are for this project, and this is a really great day for our bi-national mega region, for San Diego, and it's an honor really to be here today to welcome you all to the site of what will be the most technologically advanced border crossing in the southern United States. I'm thrilled today to welcome our Secretary of Transportation for the state of California, Tokes Amashapkin. Where we at? Very good. Our Lieutenant Governor Munakis is here. Madam Lieutenant, thank you so much for all your support for this incredible project. Much of its success is due to her advocacy. Deputy Secretary of Transportation of the United States Government, Polly Trottenberg, who is here. Polly is no stranger to our great state, being an alumnus of former Senator Boxer's staff, and we're grateful to have her here in San Diego. And then, of course, we are so glad to welcome back to San Diego United States Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg. Mr. Secretary, welcome. So this is an exciting day for us in San Diego because we love any and every opportunity to highlight this project, which has been the centerpiece of our region's advocacy in Washington for close to 2 decades. There is nothing like seeing persistence meet opportunity, which is precisely what happened 1 year ago when President Joe Biden and Congress got the bipartisan infrastructure law over the finish line and finally made this long-awaited and much-needed project possible. This project represents precisely the type of transformational investment that President Biden, Vice President Harris, and Mr. Secretary, you envisioned when this law was signed. This transformational project is transformational because of our cross-border trade. It'll have a huge impact on our regional and state economy, which loses out on billions of dollars due to excessive wait times for goods and supplies that go back and forth at San Diego's busy land border crossings. It's transformational for air quality by reducing emissions from idling trucks. I remind folks that our border region has suffered the impacts of poor air quality more than any other part of our city. And I believe that we all share a common goal of addressing that inequity. And of course, this project supports that. And finally, it is transformational for the quality of life in the region, a region where so many people lead bi-national lives, crossing the border each and every day for family and for work. This investment by the federal government is an investment in the lives of San Diegans, and it is going to make a huge impact on our region. And so I want to thank the 2 entities who really led on this project and on this grant. They've been leading this charge for a very long time, and that is Caltrans and Sandag. So rapid round of applause for Caltrans and Sandag. Great leadership. We appreciate both agencies. Santa Clara is here. It's great to see you. And of course, we have great partners in the County of San Diego. We're joined by County Chairman Nathan Fletcher and Vice Chair Nora Vargas. That city-county partnership gets stuff done. This is proof of that, so this is a good day. As I mentioned a moment ago, this is really about the lives of everyday people, and you'll hear now directly from 2 San Diegans, Lalo and Gray, whose livelihoods depend on a well-functioning supply chain and a better border crossing right here at Otay Mesa East. So I'll just conclude by saying thank you so much, Mr. Secretary, for coming back to San Diego. It's the 2nd time in a month, I believe. We like that. You're always welcome to America's finest city. And want to say our deep appreciation for the investment in this project and what represents the future of San Diego right here in Otay Mesa East. With that, it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you all Eduardo Lalo Acosta. Lalo?
Thank you very much, Mayor. I appreciate that. And Secretary Buttigieg, we really, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, I can't stress the importance of having you here because this really literally puts this project on the map. We've been so blessed to have to be talking about this project for many years. And for me, I've been a businessman here for 32 years. I'm a U.S. Customs broker by trade. But being here for so many years, what I've turned into, I think, and it maybe by nature, is rather than promoting my industry in the region, I've become a promoter of our industry, of our region for many different industries. I think if you can't have all the industries put together, it really won't work. People have asked me recently and in the last couple of years, is this border really necessary? And the answer, quite frankly, is a resounding yes. This facility, this border crossing, this new port is so important for many different reasons. I think right now, what's happening as we speak after, and I'm not gonna talk about the pandemic because we're not post-pandemic anymore. We are where we're going to be and where we're going to be moving forward. We're way ahead of 2019. So many things have evolved in our industry. Duties, 301 duties. We've had e-commerce. People don't realize the importance of e-commerce to this region. There's so many things with the minimum being raised to $800, how e-commerce has just detonated, and most of that e-commerce, a lot of us here, we order stuff online and you're thrilled that it's there the next day, and if it's not there the next day, you're wondering why. Well, one of the main reasons it is there the next day is because it's shipping from Tijuana, and as you're familiar, a lot of these trucks in Tijuana now, a lot of the facilities used to be big manufacturing sites that have turned into now fulfillment centers, not only manufacturing. And then with the COVID and the closures in China of raw materials, we've realized this region is really set up to become a hub for raw material manufacturing. We need to transition that from Asia and bring it to Mexico. It's all there. USMCA was updated. All the challenges that we had with NAFTA were upgraded, put into USMCA. That was signed. That gave so many of our investors and our possible clients here certainty to come to this region. We have Long Beach, we have Ensenada, potentially one day we might have Punta Coronet. There's just so many things that are happening, and we know how long it takes to build a border like this. If we need it now, imagine what it would be like if we start thinking about it now. I think the important thing is that we need it, we have the support from the city, the county, the federal government, and I think, I hate using the saying that if you build it, if they will use it, they will come. Believe me, I've seen projects here, people in our industry, in our community. This is one of the most dynamic. I was born and raised on the southern border in Arizona, but I've been here for 32 years. There's no other border like this one where everybody needs to cross the border for everyday life. It's not like you live here and you want to cross every now and then. We all were at a dinner last night in Tijuana. We just go back and forth, our families, quality of life for our families, for our drivers, not to have to wait in line. We need to spread that out to the different ports. My colleague Greg is going to speak in a few minutes. One of the most important things is, and I'll give this as an example. Right now, if a trucking company has to use 50 trucks to cross the border for 50 entries, imagine if we could do that with 30 trucks. What it would do to the wear and tear on our roads, to our air quality, as the mayor mentioned, to the quality of life of these drivers who get paid by the crossing. And if they can cross 2 or 3 times per day, quality of life for them, for their families, for our families that go cross border. I think this is a unique project. We need to take advantage of it, and I appreciate everybody that's here supporting it, and I hope that they continue supporting it. Now pressure Mexico to pick up the slack and then finish with it. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce a colleague of mine, a fellow user of the port from the California Trucking Association, Greg Dubuque.
Good morning, everybody. It is a pleasure to be here this morning, this momentous morning. My name is Greg Dubuque, and I work with Liberty Line Haul West. We're actually based out of Los Angeles, but we do have operations here in San Diego. We run a fleet of about 40 trucks out of Los Angeles, and we do a lot of work crossing both the southern and northern borders in Canada. If you don't notice by my accent already, I was actually born in Canada, and I remember crossing the northern border all the time with my dad in the cab of a truck. I saw at an early age how critical good ports of entry are to make goods move faster and more efficiently. When I moved to Los Angeles, I immediately realized the challenges faced here in Otay Mesa that were impacting business and supply chains. And for years, we needed to do something about it. We have trucks at Otay Mesa here every day. It's a critical port of entry. Trucks trucks come down from the LA ports, the Long Beach ports, and pick up freight here going to Inland Empire and points throughout North America. Sometimes we're picking up cargo from a Mexican carrier, sometimes we're dropping it off. But the wait time is unbearable. Just a couple miles away, it takes 5 to 6 hours at times for a driver to cross the border. That means we've got US drivers who are stuck waiting for a handoff from a Mexican driver that lose entire days. We've got drivers who sleep in their vehicles overnight, running heat or air conditioning. They're burning fuel, burning money, and burning time. And it's just not the driver. This hurts people and businesses all over the country relying on essential goods coming from right here in Otay Mesa. That's why we're so excited about this project. A better port of entry not only means goods move more freely, it also means a better quality of life for our drivers, both US and Mexican based. I know that firsthand because I still drive a truck on occasion, and I've made the trip down here to the border several times, so I know what it means for our drivers. It means they can sleep in their own beds at night a little more often, instead of in their trucks. It means more time spent driving and more money in their pockets. In our industry, time is our most valuable currency. Saving hours or even minutes has a real impact on our business. And this is going to save us a lot of time. So I thank everybody here today, and it is a pleasure to be part of this event. Thank you. I'd like to pass it off to our Lieutenant Governor, Elena.
Buttigieg, our wonderful Secretary of Transportation for the United States. Mr. Secretary, I hope that you see what we all know is represented by the folks here right now, which is a tremendous decades-long effort of local government officials and business people who see the potential for growing the relationship between the United States and Mexico by investing in infrastructure right here in San Diego on the California border. Don't we see it? It's amazing. So when Governor Newsom and I were both elected about 4 years ago, he asked me, because I'm a former U.S. ambassador, to serve as California's representative for international affairs and trade. And the very first project, the very first effort that I identified as the one that was most important for the governor and I to get behind was the effort to build the Otay Mesa East project. It is a remarkable thing, and it was on display a few weeks ago when we had a delegation in Mexico City to sign the agreement on the toll sharing process. That the signatories on the two sides of the table, the Mexican government, and not the US government, not even the state of California government, but SANDAG. And you can imagine that even the foreign minister of Mexico is scratching his head saying, we're signing a bilateral international agreement with a local organization of governments in California. That doesn't always compute. But I can tell you as a former US ambassador that what sets us apart as Americans is our can-do attitude. And the work of SANDAG and the can-do attitude of the people of the region of San Diego, of this incredible region that represents both sides of the border, is so remarkable, and that is the driving force that has led us here today. Now, at a certain point, local government needs help too, and that is where the governor and I have been able to step up and step in to help raise the awareness and to resolve some of the final things that are necessary to finish. And so let me just recognize and commend the government of Mexico for the tremendous steps forward they have made over the last few years to complete their side of the border crossing, which is obviously necessary. And Mr. Consul General, thank you for being here representing Mexico in moving forward with the groundbreaking on the Mexico side. Thank you for your work. We're so grateful. And then, of course, the role of the federal government. Now, it is probably not lost on you, Mr. Secretary, on anyone here, that only in California do we come together repeatedly, I think this is my 5th time here, repeatedly to celebrate what happens on the border between the United States and Mexico. Mexico is our most important foreign partner to us here in California. And whenever we come, whether it's for our groundbreaking or agreement signing, we celebrate what goes on in this relationship. And for you, Mr. Secretary, to be here representing President Biden and all the people of the United States in recognizing your $150 million contribution to building the building here. Let me just say, this is now the most recent high point in getting this project done. There is, however, more work to be done. So as we celebrate and recognize your leadership, Secretary Buttigieg, in helping to build the customs facility, we also need to remember that we will need additional support, engagement, and investment by the federal government to bring this project to completion. And when it is completed, more great things will come, including having people and products and trucks passing through what will be the state of our crossing here between the United States and Mexico. So with no further ado, I hope everyone will join me in gratitude and recognition of Secretary Buttigieg's leadership in helping to deliver the funds to build the Customs Center here, and also in anticipation of your ongoing support to bring this project to completion. With no further ado, ladies and gentlemen, former Mayor and current Secretary of Transportation of the United States, Pete Buttigieg.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
And thank you in particular to Lieutenant Governor Pinelakis, who has been enthusiastically encouraging me to make this visit for some time, and I'm so glad that we've been able to do it today. Pleasure and honor to be here with Mayor Gloria. Once a mayor, always a mayor, so I always am admiring the local problem solving that you're doing, along with County Supervisors Fletcher and Vargas. And Sandeg has distinguished itself in many ways, so it's great to see that local leadership. Great to be with Secretary Omashakin, who I first got to know when he was part of the process of educating me in the transition team as we were preparing to take on this role, and is doing such great work on behalf of a governor and state administration that understands the importance of infrastructure. And it's a pleasure to be here with my own colleagues, including colleagues from FMCSA that we'll be with shortly, our terrific Motor Carrier Safety Administrator, Robin Hutchison, and of course our Deputy Secretary of Transportation, my partner in working to build good things well, Polly Trottenberg. Thank you all for the warm welcome and for the terrific work that has led us to this point. We are here to talk about how we're building a stronger and more resilient American economy, and to celebrate a great example of that in this project that will create jobs and reduce costs for folks here in San Diego County and across the country. It's possible in large part, I want to emphasize, because of the work of the entire California delegation, including so many of your representatives in Congress and your two senators, who said that yes, it is time to put away the repeated talk of so-called infrastructure weeks coming and going without result, and instead work across the aisle and work with President Biden to deliver a historic infrastructure package, investment that is going to be benefiting us for the rest of our lives. You have shown what can happen when state and local leaders come to get important things done, and you've shown the philosophy of programs like the one that is providing this funding, which is that we're not going to think of all the great projects from headquarters in Washington. The ideas come from around the country, but more of the funding should come from Washington, and that's why we're here. Now, when people think about transportation, they often think of some things more than others, the things that most people use, roads and bridges and seaports and airports, but safe, secure, and high-tech border crossings are a vital part of our transportation system, even if you live thousands of miles away from here. Even if you live in the American Midwest, where I come from, you are better off economically because we are investing in our land ports of entry. They're important for ensuring safety, for securing stronger supply chains, and that's especially true in this region, one of the nation's busiest most economically significant land ports. In 2019, nearly $50 billion worth of goods, along with 112 million people, passed through San Diego's 2 ports of entry. And growing volume is threatening more congestion and more pollution for a facility and a community that are already hard-pressed to keep up. That is why we are pleased to award the California DOT $150 million for the Otay Mesa East Port project. So let me just briefly illustrate some of the things that funding for Otay Mesa will bring. A new inspection facility for commercial trucks, 10 new lanes for incoming vehicles, state-of-the-art inspection equipment, zero emissions chargers for staff needs, and state-of-the-art technology designed to make the entire operation safer and more efficient. Significant benefits include, for one thing, a new and improved inspection facility, meaning that we can keep goods moving through our supply chains more efficiently, which is even part of the fight against inflation, because it keeps shipping costs under control. It means we can better ensure the safety of commercial truck drivers, their vehicles, and the goods that they carry. And I really appreciate Greg conveying that perspective of those for whom infrastructure is a workplace as well as a tool. I think about the math of what it means to reduce those hours spent here, less time wasted for truckers means more time at home with loved ones. It makes both an economic difference and a difference in terms of quality of life, as well as lower costs for consumers. Thus, major international freight and industrial hubs, border towns, and locations like this also stand to see more economic growth in manufacturing, warehousing, distribution, research and development, and other sectors, creating so many jobs here. And that's why I also appreciate Eduardo's examples on behalf of the business community, that everyone wants to come to San Diego, but no one wants to wait in line, as he said. And the project carries so many benefits for businesses, truckers, consumers, and residents. So it's good for consumers, strengthening our supply chains. It's good for truck drivers, saving time and money. It's good for the people who live here, who will experience less traffic and pollution. But I also want to emphasize this is just one of dozens of projects that we have been able to support, many of which are right here in Southern California. For example, picture one of those trucks that's going to come through Otay Mesa. It might head north to a warehouse connected to the Port of LA, where we recently announced $20 million to build a new 4-lane roadway and bridge, which will save truck drivers a total of almost 2,500 hours every day. Another truck might be on its way to one of those distribution centers in the Inland Empire, where we just awarded $15 million around Fontana for better bridges, crosswalks, streetlights, and bike lanes. That truck will move more efficiently, and just as importantly, students on their way to Etiwanda High School will no longer be sharing the road, competing with that truck in order to safely get to school, because they will have an adequate and safe route to school. I want to end just with a broader thought, which is the historic context of the work that we're doing. Being able to say yes to great project proposals like these improvements to Otay Mesa East. Being able to make improvements everywhere from here at the border to places 1,000 miles inland. Coming into the context of what I like to call the big deal. We had the New Deal under FDR, under President Biden, the big deal. Investments that are not just improving transportation infrastructure, but clean water, broadband internet access, and investments in human beings, in our families, in our lives, lower prescription drug costs, veterans benefits that have long been sought, and bringing more high-tech manufacturing to America. This administration is demonstrating what happens when we put aside special interests and focus on making life better every day for every American, and that is exactly what is going to come of this project. So, again, I want to congratulate all of the leaders here for your vision, your hard work. The work is not done, but this is a major milestone, and we're delighted to celebrate it. Thank you again for everything that's brought us to this. With that, I think we have a few minutes for media questions guided by my colleague Ben.
Yeah, please want to raise your hand if you want to talk about some questions.
Yeah, this is an ongoing conversation that I know is going on, not just in the interagency with our partners at Homeland Security, but also a lot of interest in Congress. And we recognize that the physical transportation infrastructure is just one piece of it. But we also know that every CBP agent can be more efficient and more effective and have a better experience doing their job when they have a better facility. And that's part of why we know the physical infrastructure is an important part, only part, but an important part of the solution. Well, and I would defer to the project sponsors on some of the elements of how the technology will bring the greatest benefits. But what I'll say, we know that we've been working with outdated equipment and facilities that contribute to the pressure just in terms of the flow, which is projected to grow enormously. The pressure that puts on both the equipment and on the people is inevitably creating a stress on the security of this location as well. And so when you think about the inspectors, whether it's the CBP side or whether it's our DOT folks making sure that those motor carrier vehicles are safe, we know that they will be better able to meet their critical safety and security mission when they have the right kind of equipment and when they have everything from the lanes to the buildings that can help deal with that flow, so you don't have that overwhelming situation that can lead to people being overworked, stressed, and in turn can be sometimes a problem for meeting that security mission. No, one job at a time. I've already got a job, and we've already got a president, and I'm proud to be part of the administration. That, again, especially when you consider the extraordinary level of talk in the last administration relative to action on infrastructure. We are now actually making those investments, but that's enough to keep me busy 110% of the time, because we recognize the responsibility that comes with the trust and the funding that Congress is making.
Now that we've shifted gears, Mr. Secretary, Thanksgiving travel is upon us. This summer you put the airlines on notice. You've got to do a better job. It's chaotic right now. Have they responded, and what's your forecast absent the weather for Thanksgiving?
So let me start with the good news. We have seen a number of steps that I think are part of why we have a lower level of cancellation than we did this summer when I first brought those airline leaders together. We've seen more realistic scheduling. We've seen better pay, which is helping to deal with those staffing issues, and a number of operational partnerships with us at FAA and the airlines that I think are helpful. But I'd be lying if I said we're out of the woods. We still see staffing shortfalls. We still see a system that, if it faces a big disruption, like a major weather event impacting one of the hubs, that can still create issues that will cascade through the system. So definitely a lot of improvements, but still some concern as we go into the holiday season. We'll be watching closely. I will say this, if you do get delayed or canceled, we are there to support you as a passenger. And we just got, last week, about $600 million went back to passengers. And we were able to announce that as part of what we've been able to enforce with DOT rules and enforcement actions. Because if you do have that kind of disruption, airlines need to take care of it consistent with their requirements and obligations under the rules. Yeah, so two things right now that I think are the biggest factors that are affecting Amtrak. The first is that they share the rails in most cases with freight carriers. And it's very important that those freight carriers be accountable for their legal responsibility to prioritize passenger traffic. We've seen improvement in that, but there's a long way to go, and we're watching that very closely. Second thing I would point to is the physical infrastructure. And this infrastructure law signed now a year ago by the president, and with us now underway moving those funds, contains the biggest investments in passenger rail since Amtrak was created in the first place. More people may be familiar with what's going on in the Northeast Corridor, but this is a nationwide effort, and that's certainly going to be the benefit of Amtrak riders, whether that's here in California or anywhere in between.
I heard that there's CBP staffing and
So I'd have to refer to CBP for their side. What I will say is that we know that with these DOT dollars, we can create the kind of physical infrastructure that allows every employee, everyone who's involved in this process, and of course every trucker, everybody who's using this border, to make the most of their time and to be as productive and efficient as possible.
Mr. Secretary, Salvador Rivera, Border Report, Fox 5 here in San Diego. You talked about this earlier, but emphasize how this small border crossing in the southwest corner of the continental United States will benefit South Bend, Indiana, or Denver, Colorado, or Nashville, Tennessee, and other parts of it.
Well, when people think about supply chains, they think about ports. And when they think about ports, they think about ships off the coast of San Pedro Bay or one of our other coastal ports. That's all very important. But our land ports of entry are vitally important too. And that's what Otay Mesa represents. One of the most economically significant locations for commerce in this binational region where so many of our supply chains are at stake. If a truck is waiting, if an important piece of cargo is waiting for hours, that is not only wasting that trucker's time, that is also delaying and adding costs in our supply chains for wherever those goods are meant to go. And so making sure that we iron out any of the bottlenecks, especially because there's not only a very high amount of traffic and demand here today, but it's projected to grow an enormous amount just by the end of this decade. We've got to be making investments to keep up. And when you have that fluidity, when you don't have people and trucks and goods waiting for far too long because the facility can't handle them, that ultimately means lower shipping costs, lower delivery times, and all of us are better off, even if you're 1,000 or 2,000 miles away.
Got time for one more. Jacob, APBS News. So what has to happen both on this side of the border and on the other side in order for vehicles to actually be coming back and forth? I know you didn't give a timeline. Can you tell me what else needs to happen?
Yeah, and I might I'm going to refer to one of the project sponsors to give a little more detail about the binational relationship and how that fits. I'll tell you, our piece is principally to make sure that any traffic that whether it's inbound from the U.S. side or as it meets the U.S. highway system, that we have the resources to accommodate that and the technology to make a more efficient process of the inspections. But in terms of the architecture of the other pieces going into the project, I wonder if Lieutenant Governor has more answers.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. So again, we mentioned most of us in this group were in Mexico City signing an agreement on the toll sharing. That was a huge step forward. And our U.S. ambassador was very helpful, and the federal government in general in facilitating that. So we're going one step at a time. But a big step forward was the degree to which Mexico has advanced the construction on their side. And we feel very much confident that we are still on track to open in 2024. But as everyone has recognized, we are at a point now where local government has spent 20 years getting us to this point. State government has been deeply engaged for 4 years under Governor Newsom's leadership. We need the federal government to step up and help us with the staffing. And if we get that done, we will open in 2024, and you are going to see great things happening here in the California border.
Thanks, everybody. Brad.